So after.
All right, we're live.
Switch to HGTV.
All right,
Okay.
Pam, you're on.
All right, so we're gonna pick up where we left off.
Millen.
Will Ann Fangman and/or Millen Tyler provide the members with an overview of these matters?
Yes, I'm happy to, let's start with the second one, because we have guests here. We can get their business overdone with. This is part of the RXR Garvey's Point project. This is in particular the brewery site. The brewery site has been subdivided and is its own separate lot. There is a lease currently in place between RXR and the brewery operator. The request is for RXR to sell their fee estate to the investors who are here tonight, and I'll let them speak in a minute. But this is really a financing transaction only, because the brewery lease and the brewery use would stay in place as required by both the planning board and the IDA specific documents. So this really is just a financial transaction only. We have ordered, as a matter of due diligence, background checks on the three primary individuals. They have, I think we got the last two in today. Ann and I are still reviewing them. So the proposed resolution contains a caveat that if you approve tonight, it would still be subject to, I think, Ann and I reviewing and finding satisfactory the credit reports. Yeah, right, in the sole discretion of the executive director after consultation with the agency's counsel. So that's the resolution is a consent resolution. As you recall, all of the IDA projects down there require IDA consent in order to transfer them. So far, I think Block G to George New Green is the only one that has gone through that process, but RXR has made it clear that, from time to time, they will be selling other properties. So, Steve, you want to introduce yourself and your client, and tell us a little bit about your company.
So I represent 45 Glen Cove LEAC. It's an entity that was created for this transaction. Next to me is my cousin, Michael Barone Jr., and he's the manager of 45 Glen Cove LLC. And we're eager to be part of Glen Cove.
Has the transaction closed?
No.
Have you agreed upon a price?
Yes.
Yeah, we agreed on everything. I think we were just waiting. This was part of the process leading up to the closing.
Right now, you're waiting on the background checks for everyone, correct?
So we've received them. Since I guess per the resolution, I have some type of role here, I will ask. I did see a civil suit listed. Just tell us a little bit more about that, and it looked like it was settled. Just want the IDA board to be aware.
There's actually two. One, there's just a small claims court action against Nassau County.
Yeah, that one I wasn't even
But this is the one involving the Fair Labor Act.
Yes.
And it was from 2016, it looked like it was set up in 2017.
The family's previous company was called Marina Ice Cream. Recently, we sold that business. This August will be 2 years. Private equity fund out of Manhattan bought up about 6 different companies similar to ours. We do wholesale distribution and of ice cream products throughout the 5 boroughs in Long Island, Rockland, and Westchester County.
And you didn't bring it here tonight?
No, we didn't bring it here tonight. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was such a crowd.
But we sold the business.
We sold the business. We sold the business 2 years ago. At the time of the suit, we had about 40, 45 delivery trucks on the road, again from Montauk all the way to the city. And one of the drivers, we were paying drivers based on commission. That driver was looking for overtime payments. They ended up filing a class action with some of the other drivers in the company, and we ended up settling the matter with the exact outcome. It was a settlement. Everybody got a little bit of money, and that was it.
Yeah.
After that fact,
Just
changed some of the payroll and that's about it.
Just like Uber, right? Class action lawsuit, independent contractor versus W-2, W-4. That was the issue.
So unfortunately for all the other drivers worked in, everybody wanted to remain on the W-2, and he was looking for the overtime hours, and everybody kind of wasn't so happy in the end. But I guess that's how you can't do a fair agreement. So it worked out all for the better. And then some years after that is when we sold the company, because it was over quite a while ago.
Yeah, it's settled back in 2017.
Yeah.
And there's a third majority holder that's not here tonight, Diana.
Mhm.
What is her role with the team?
She's just part of the family. She's my sister. She's my younger sister.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay.
So after the family sold the business, they didn't get back into the ice cream business, so they're looking to invest the funds in real estate and various other things.
You don't have any experience in the restaurant/brewery business?
Restaurant and brewery, no. I mean, our fathers did own a restaurant in Queens for a number of years before they got into the ice cream business, but personally, no. We do own commercial properties all over the 5 boroughs, about 16 properties.
LLCs.
Yeah, there's 15 or 16 properties, all mostly commercial, few residential. So the family's, pretty well versed in real estate.
And per the lease with the IDA, it has to remain a brewery?
That's correct. The use of the property cannot change. That is my understanding.
Without IDA consent, there's also a condition of the planning board and the PUD.
Yeah.
Have that requirement as well.
The shape that the building's in and the status of the tenant and everything, we're perfectly happy with.
What's the current lease with the tenant? What's the years left on the lease?
Quite a bit.
I think he has another 4 years, and then there's 2 options to renew after the 4
So
years.
4 years with renewable options. Okay.
Was it 2030, I think?
Yeah, the options extended quite.
I have a copy of the lease, and I'm assuming that basically it's an assumption of the existing lease.
Yes, the
With-
transfer would be subject
Yeah.
to the existing lease.
Right, so I think that it's probably about 10 years with the options, if I recall that correctly.
So this is strictly a financial transaction, just an investment? You're not changing the management, laying
No.
off people?
No, 0.
Just stepping into the shoes of 45 HHR.
And just so you're aware, there's certain, obligations with the IDA agreements. There's reporting that needs to be done on the number of jobs that are retained and created each year. You have to provide those materials, as requested to the IDA. There's an HOA fee. I'm sure you are now aware of with RXR as part of the assumption. I'm also assuming, Mellon, that they will have to pay that share of the HOA fee.
Exactly, they step
Yeah.
into the shoes for the assignment and assumption of all of the IDA documents, including all the ones that are a record. So the HOA, the continuing covenants, et cetera.
How about the public bathrooms that are part of the brewery? Because right now, they're maintained under the umbrella of the HOA. Will those continue to be maintained under the umbrella of the HOA, or will that be worked out with the brewery separately?
No, I think that's part of the brewery.
That's part of the lease with the
Right,
brewery, yeah.
right.
Okay, so they're taking on the obligation of maintaining the public restrooms.
They're already doing
At the
it
site.
currently, yeah.
And there's a small storage/office space at the site too that's technically public use.
And that's there, and it's now open. One of the things I'm working on here, Curry, is the shape of the easement along the side of
Yeah.
the brewery, the public
Right.
access to the bathrooms and the public space. But again, all of those will be real estate matters that get recorded prior to the conveyance, so that this would be subject to all of those agreements.
And the
Yeah.
marina, and the marina is separate?
So the marina is managed it's under the oversight of the IDA.
Right.
But it's a public use area. Under the oversight of the IDA, it's currently managed by the Garvey's Point HOA. The brewery currently has an agreement with the Garvey's Point HOA for one of those slips. It's a transient slip, A1. It's that big slip, that's the
Right.
first one. For transient boat use at the marina site. I'm told by the HOA property manager that they should be entering into a similar agreement for the 2024 year, but because the season is just getting started, I'm gonna be getting all those
Okay.
agreements
So
and
it's sure that's
insurances
part
and
of the financial
everything.
arrangements.
That is more so between the Garvey's Point HOA and the brewery
Okay.
owners.
Right, the brewery wants that so that they
Yeah.
are more profitable.
Right.
It's a good
Because
question,
It's
though.
brewery access.
Yes,
That's-
no, it's a
that's
good
it.
question. I was thinking about bringing it up, but,
Yeah.
just to clarify. And Michael, will you be sort of the day-to-day contact on this project once
Yeah,
this
if-
potentially
if the tenants
transfers?
or any members of the board or anything need anything, reachable. I
Okay.
work local on the island, that house between Queens and Lindenhurst.
Okay.
Hop up, if I'm around, yeah, I'm always there.
Why was Glen Cove appealing to you?
Beautiful site, recently redeveloped.
I knew the area. My wife used to student teach at the high school, and every time we drive through, she talks about all the changes that have been made in the last, I don't know, 7 to 10 years, and it's night and day compared to when I used to drop her off and now. So you can't help but notice it, and admire it to some extent.
The brewery is really fun. I happen to run into one of our board members there. It's really a fun happening.
No, since the first time we picked up the property, we picked up land of the property, I should say, we went a couple of times. We came my whole family one night. It was like 12 or 13 of us, and it was great. It was in the middle of the week, and it was a nice crowd. It was good.
It's gonna really escalate like now, like in a night like this.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's really a fun place.
Does anyone else have questions for our
I'm
guests?
glad you're noticing improvements and changes in Glen Cove. I'm glad your wife is noticing things, we're working very hard.
Yeah,
to
they're
make it better.
pretty, apparent. You can't miss the changes in the area for sure.
Is there anything you guys are gonna do like day one, like put any money in to do anything at all, or?
Truth of the matter is, the building seems relatively new. I mean,
It is.
it seems like a turnkey property. I mean, if it was empty, we would advertise it as such, in hopes of
I
renting
mean,
it
I
out.
think it's been open just about 2 years.
Yeah, it seems like they're doing everything the right way as far as the business is concerned. I mean, I see that, I went there one time for lunch, and I get text messages now, and they're promoting things and different events, and it
They're at
seems-
City Field,
Yeah,
right?
it seems like they're pretty on point with business, so.
I went there on a weekend, I couldn't even get in.
Yeah. It's, I think it would be overstepping to go in and try to change things. They won't listen. They're doing a fine job.
Okay. Next.
All right, so I guess, feel free to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I think, that agenda item was covered. So up to you.
Fair enough.
Does anybody have any more
other
questions before the gentleman leave?
Are we adopting a resolution tonight?
There's one being proposed, so if there's a motion and a second, then the answer is yes, you would.
Is this gonna be conditional upon the completion of the background checks?
Yes, and that's in your resolution. And again, they are now in, and I have not had a chance to go through them. We briefly looked through them and found out one thing. In section 5,
What page?
page 4, section 5, agency hereby consents to proposed transaction, provided that all the conditions of the covenants agreement, which they're going to assume, are met. And I added section B, the background checks ordered by the agency is still pending. Technically, they're maybe not still pending, but they haven't been reviewed yet.
They just came, 2 of them came in today, I believe,
Right.
yeah.
Is this just the brewery property, or is there anything surrounding it?
It's also that patio area, I believe,
patio
that's part of the
area.
brewery property. There's,
And some parking in front.
Yeah.
yeah, there's some
parking.
parking. Millen, you'd have to tell me if they're including that beer garden that was created out of some of the previous parking spots as part of the property per se or not. It's right in front of the marina.
Oh, the 2 picnic tables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an outdoor patio.
No, this is different. They created with
Section with
bollards, a
bollards.
section for a beer garden. That was originally parking spaces along the Esplanade,
In the parking lot?
correct?
Yeah.
They took out 6
I
spots.
don't think that's part of the lot.
You don't think that's part of the lot, so that's still gonna remain part of RXR's private improvement area, because that is not part of our public improvement area. Okay,
So there is parking that goes with this.
there's some portion of
In
parking,
the front toward.
and then the rest of that lot is part of RXR's private use area.
And there are 2 parking areas, there's parking in front and then in the back of the building.
On the side, right?
On the side, but I think
Back
they're both on the
of
side.
the building is the patio, right, to the side of the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
and the front.
It's sort of actually the
And
front of the building.
Yeah, it is,
But it's
yes.
not really the front of the building, because most people enter on the
Yeah,
side.
'cause there's a
And then
front
there's
part.
the rest of that side parking, the majority of it is gonna be RX, still under RX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't tell right now where one ends and
No.
first begins, but there is a line there. So the first parking, if you will, in the, well, I'm seeing the side, Bananas Right, move people come in that way, belongs to the brewery site. But there's overflow, if you will, from the, is that the Beacon next door?
No, that's Harbor Landing,
Right.
Building I.
Right, next door.
And that's all part of the financial arrangement that you have with.
Yeah.
Okay, want to move forward to the next topic?
Sure.
Do we
Okay,
want to
you
do the
guys
vote?
can-
and
yeah,
then-
stick around.
We
Sure.
could
It's gonna be
potentially
quick.
do that
Would you like us to vote?
resolution, or we can wait to do both resolutions at the end. It's your, the board's choice.
Want to vote on the resolution now? The gentleman might be more comfortable leaving.
Sure.
Yes, that would be six
Would be
B.
nice.
So if there are no questions, I will make a motion to adopt resolution 6B. 6B, Glen Cove IDA consent to the transfer by RXR 45 HHR to 45 Glen Cove LLC Garbage Point Brewery property. Are there any additional questions about this resolution? If there are no additional questions, may I have a second to adopt resolution 6B? That's seconded by Vince Hartley. Will the secretary please poll the board?
Lisa Travatello,
I vote aye with the covenants met,
Tom
What?
Scott,
with the criteria and the covenants.
Thank you. Yes.
Tom Scott, yes, okay, John Fielding,
Aye.
Grady, oh God, Jim Capiello,
Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hartley,
Aye.
and Chairperson Panzerbeck.
I vote aye. Okay,
All right, thank you.
that
Thank you
motion
very
is
much.
All right,
carried.
thank you. Nice to
everyone.
meet
Thank you for your
you.
time and
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Please start getting my emails.
I know.
Just
Have a good
kidding.
evening.
Camille's are
Tomorrow morning,
worse.
tomorrow
Camille's
morning.
are worse.
So, okay, we have another topic of discussion.
And you want to, or should I?
I'll start. So we have the consent to a temporary forbearance agreement for the Villas property in front of us tonight. I know that we have been discussing this for some time. As of now, if you want to go to section 11, which is page 4 of the resolution, I just want to point out some things.
That's resolution 6A.
Right. This will be subject to the agency's consent fee with respect to the proposed forbearance, which is $30,000 payable within 10 days after the date of this resolution, which is something that the board members had brought to our attention. This is not a forbearance of the pilot payments. The pilot payments, as per the pilot agreement, will continue during the forbearance period. Every other covenant and condition of the IDA agreements would remain in place. And this would have an expiration date of 6 months following, or is it a certain number of days, Nolan?
The forbearance, let me back up. This really only forbears with regard to one default, and that is they were supposed to complete the building by, we extended it several times to the end of February. That did not happen.
The sales tax also expired.
Right, and the sales tax also expired on the same date. So as of March 1, there was a default, and one that they're not likely to be able to remedy were we to send a default letter. We've not yet done so because we've been at least discussing whether or not to give them more time. So the forbearance period would start retroactive back to March 1, because that's when the default was, and run for 6 months until August 31st of 2024. So we're already now a month and change into the 6-month period, but we sort of had to do it back to then, because as of March 1 was when the default occurred. And it's in the forbearance agreement, the draft of which you have, is the quote disclosed default. So to answer to echo what Ann said, anything else that they do wrong between now and the end of that period is not forbeared upon, right? So for example, non-payment of a pilot is its own separate new default, and presumably that's not something that you're gonna want to wait around for a long period of time. And again, backing up, they have asked for more time because they don't have their financing in place. They have changed the, what the building is going to look like, and they're working through that process. They've recently gotten their permits extended by the city through the end of the year. But I think that our thought was it's only a 6-month forbearance. Then they come back and ask for another one at the end of that period. But the thought is we want to know primarily where the financing is going to come from, where the final plans and specs are going to look like, a lot more information that they just don't have at this point.
Can we actually turn to page 2 of the draft forbearance agreement and go to section 3, which is termination? So 3A, and again, this is all within 3 days of written notice from the IDA to the villa, right? As Millen mentioned, they can't breach any term or condition of this agreement or the agency sublease, right? B, they cannot be found to have been non-responsive to our requests for documents and information regarding the project, of which we have compiled a list. And that list has been sent to the villas. So in my mind, that is part of this forbearance period. We are continuing to follow up on those documents and those requests. And I believe that the board in our last discussion had said, we really need to move forward with this. Millen mentioning this is retroactive a month. I don't think the board wanted it to be retroactive 2 months or 3 months. They wanted, to move on, the clock essentially starting on the forbearance period, and thus also, to Millen's point, hopefully giving them more time to come up with this documentation that we've been requesting. And obviously there's various protections for the agency in this forbearance agreement throughout.
Are there, is there a pilot payment due between now and August 31st?
I'd have to look and see, I suspect so, but
There is.
I believe so.
I will say that they are up to date on their current pilot payments. I also believe there will be a pilot payment due within the forbearance period.
There will be.
Yeah, and I don't want to quote which of the taxing jurisdictions that is and what amount. I mean, we coordinate with the finance department on that.
No, just
I will
as long as
confirm
we-
that for the board following this meeting, okay?
June strikes me as ringing a bell, but again, I'm with.
Yeah, and we
I
would
don't
send
have-
those invoices out May 1.
Mhm.
So I will check on the pilot invoicing during the forbearance period.
Right.
Okay?
Mhm.
But they will be responsible for that.
Right.
100%.
Right, and if something, if they don't pay it, then we do what we always do, which is, we send them usually a quick, gentle reminder like, hey, guys, you better do this. And if it doesn't get paid, then we send a default notice. And, with that, then, and I would reach out to one or more of you to say, should we terminate this? But that's the remedy, is we can terminate the forbearance. And at that point, we can send a default notice because they have not finished construction and are unlikely to. And then at that point, if I want to go into executive session and talk about what your legal rights are with a project like this that's post default, but we could exercise all of those remedies at that point.
And Millen, actually, the second they're late, like the day they're late with the pilot payment, we are going to apply the late fees and interest right away.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to
Right.
first the friendly reminder is now you have late fees and interest, and then,
Is
we
there a
look for them to
defined-
remedy within a
Is there
certain
a
period.
defined grace period?
There is.
What is it?
Maybe
So
30
there's
days.
actually no defined what I will call grace period. The due date is the due date. There is a period of time where they can remedy the missed pilot payment without us calling it a default. It might be 30
I
days,
think 30 days.
but we could check the agreements. I believe it's 30 days.
Are they doing any work on the project right now?
They had to fix a fence that came down, but other than that,
For months, we've been hearing that they're going to do something. And I don't see any progress whatsoever since the time I came on the board, right? So it's always, we keep giving this to them, but I never see any action on their part. And is there any hope that they're really going to get this financing?
We don't know.
Right, so, I mean, we're just kicking the ball all the time.
This is 4.5 months, roughly, more, and if you say yes to this, then it's not at all assured that you would grant any further adjournments at that time.
Right, well, we kind of said that last time, didn't we?
Well, we've given them a number of short-term extensions and kept asking the questions. This is the first time I think they've come to us and said, listen, we're not ready. We need, more than these 1-month extensions. We want a 6-month extension. I'll point out that the consent fee, I think, is sending them a message that, you do not want to keep doing this because this is an expensive way to make this happen.
Right.
Both your consent fee and all the documents that I have to draft, et cetera, et cetera. This is just a ruinous way for them to develop this project. And again, after 6 months, if they haven't given you what you want, let's talk separately about what you do at that point. But they clearly will be in default. They're acknowledging that they're in default, not that it's at all unclear. The building's clearly not complete as of this moment, or even back to March 1. So
So they haven't seen this agreement yet?
they have.
They have?
And they had a couple of minor comments, which I made the edits to, and that's what you see here. They asked, gee, that's a high fee. Usually we see consent fees of, a couple $1,000s. And so that's what the board has told us to do. And quite honestly, it's roughly 1% of the increase, 0.1% of the increase in your project cost, which is sort of de minimis. And
So they have experience in forbearing, since they've seen fees a lot less?
exactly, there's some pain to it.
Surprise.
And they've not signed it, but, unless you tell me otherwise, that's what the fee is. And they have 10 days until next Friday to put up or shut up. And if they don't pay it, well then, we'll again talk probably in executive session about, your legal rights and remedies and what you want Ann and I to do about the project.
we're gonna have them sign and pay the fee first.
Of course.
Okay, are there any more questions regarding this?
And just curious, because they do have outstanding paperwork too, right? And are there any deadlines against that?
So from our shop, it's a little bit different because there's things that I know they owe sort of like the building department in terms of plans. From my perspective at the last day of the month, they will owe me their workforce report. They will owe me, they can't owe me a sales tax report because their sales tax as of now is expired. But they would typically owe me 30 days following the end of each quarter, a workforce report as defined in the sublease and a sales tax report. There's various other documentation that they owe us annually. I will say that they are up to date as of now. That was an issue at a point last year, but that issue was remedied within a relatively short period of time.
So now they've been consistent in meeting the IDA's needs.
They're getting better. But again, I think part of it was that there was no work really going on in the project for that period. And there was also a period of time, as you might remember, and you might not remember because you're relatively new to the board, but there was a period of time where their proposed structure kept changing as well. So until we consented, I think it was in December, to the new structure of ownership, now there are clear people that are responsible for those reports and items going forward.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, I make a motion to adopt resolution 6A. 6A, Glen Cove IDA consent to a temporary forbearance agreement with the Glen Cove Villa LLC. Are there any other questions about this resolution? If there are no further questions, may I have a second to adopt resolution 6A?
Second.
Motion seconded by Vince Hartley. Will the secretary please poll the board?
Lisa Travatello,
I vote aye.
Tom Scott,
Aye.
John Fielding,
Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
Jim Capiello,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hartley,
I vote aye.
and Chairperson Hansenbeck.
I vote aye. Motion carried. Do we have any other business to discuss this evening?
No.
No, would you like to recommend we go into executive session at this time?
Yes, there are a number of legal issues involving several of our projects that I would like to discuss with the board, and not appropriate to be done in
Okay.
open session.
So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of seeking legal advice regarding the RXR and Georgia Green waterfront projects. Would someone here like to make a motion to go into executive session? I make a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second?
I guess it's done.
That's seconded by Dave Jimenez. Will the secretary please poll the board?
Lisa Travatello,
Vote aye.
Tom Scott,
Yes.
John Fielding,
Aye.
Dave Jimenez,
Aye.
Jim Capiello,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hartley, and Chairperson Hansenbeck.
I vote aye. So motion carried. Please turn off the live stream and close the door.
Four shades down.
Turn the lights down, just so neighbors don't see us.
Now we can't.